Well, folks, a surprise here. The Soul Sessions has turned into the Royal Rumble. We have a new entrant into the show. Well, look at this. Previous gift of the show has arrived. What is this, Super Smash Bros? And we've got a surprise new entry. John, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, man. It's good to see you. Good to be back.
Very well. How you been in yourself, pal?
Yeah, man. I'm doing great. Really excited about everything that's going on with the documentary and now the comic book. It seems like this is unstoppable.
Well, it is great to see. But so, our viewers who may have not checked out your episode, John, just reintroduce yourself to our new viewers for the season premiere of season 2.
Yeah, man. So I am John Ambrose. I am the director of the Ballad of G. N. Frankie documentary. And yeah, from New York, living in the Netherlands now. I am a lawyer as by trade, but my passion is making good films and getting great stories out there.
Well, that's right. We all love a good story from the world of professional wrestling. It's like just like theater turned up to 11. It's truly a great art form to experience stories, and stories are what we love. From the comic, the documentaries, even as fans ourselves watching them. I wanted to ask you guys a wee question about stories. If we, and I mentioned this to you, John, last time we were here, but I want to reiterate again. The end of the year, we've had many crazy breaking news stories, from Vince McMahon to retire, the brawl out at All Out with CM Punk and the Elite. From our news stories this year in 2022, which ones do you think would make a great comic book? Patrick, I'll start with you, sir, since you're the comic guy.
Ooh. So it's kind of funny that you said that, because we have at Legacy, we have a comic that's going to be coming out in the summer that is loosely based on a murder that I don't want to say I watched occur, but I kind of did in a weird, crazy way. I was an editor at NBC around 2012, 2013, and I had gotten a message from an editor in Florida, and they were like, we have this closed circuit TV footage. Would you like to look at it and tell me what to do with this? So I'm watching this closed circuit TV, and it's basically of a naked man attacking a homeless man and eating his face and biting this man's face off, and the cops coming and just throwing bullets into this guy, and this guy literally kept coming at them. And this story, a lot of people were like, oh, he took bath salts, he took this, he took that. When the toxicology report came back, the guy only had marijuana in his system. So it turned out to be like this really crazy story. And it, like, I remember seeing pictures before anyone else of like this man's face, and the man ended up He survived and had to have all these skin grafts on his face. And he lives in like a Medicaid hospital now, 10 years later. So we're going to do like a comic loosely based on that, because it was just like such a crazy scene. So yeah, and stuff like that has always been done in comics. Comics always borrow from the news. I mean, if you guys are into Captain America, there was a whole scene of there was a whole sub story. I think it was Adam Englehart wrote it in the 70s during the Watergate scandal. He was just so upset with the state of the United States, where like Captain America became the U.S. agent. He was no longer Captain America, and then later on he became the Nomad. He was a man without a country, and blah blah blah. So comics have always like found a way to like borrow from the headlines. I think Will Smith would make a great comic. I think the plight of Will Smith, like to go from like America's like good old boy, like jolly, like everyone loved Will Smith, to now it's just like, wait a second, he just snapped on live TV. I think like just like a behind the scenes kind of thing of like how someone can go from being so beloved to just like how the media just like can kind of like flip the script on somebody and create their own narrative on him. I think something like that would be a lot of fun to do. And I'm all about like not doing comics about superheroes. I think it's overdone. I think as soon as like a character like has a cape or takes their shirt off and has like an 8-pack and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I'm done. I've seen that 1,000 times before. I'm really interested in like the emotionality of characters. So I think, yeah, like just to show a man that had everything but like was never like treated with the respect they deserve from like their mate, and then to have all of that air on like social media and stuff, I think that would make a crazy comic. It would be like society looking at itself and seeing like how social media could really just destroy somebody that at one point had like everything that anyone could ever want. So that would be a fun comic.
Definitely would be. I would definitely pick that up right in first edition, first printing. Give that great to me. Justin, what about yourself, pal? What kind of news stories would you think would make great comic books?
News stories make great comic books. There's a plethora of things that would make great comic books, of news stories. What we got going on. But I guess I want to kind of just trim it down to what other things in wrestling could turn into a comic book. I want to, because I know you're saying Vince McMahon retiring, news story. So I think as we're trying to promote the comic book and the Battle of Gene and Frankie documentary, additionally, I think we need to I want to maybe narrow it down to the wrestling. Absolutely. I would say for another wrestling comic book, I would say, I was just mentioning the wrestlers, Tony Cini, Reina Black, Era Spiral, and Riley Crow. They're part of a promotion called Lock Target Wrestling, which was a show I attended in Jersey a few months ago. I would say if there could be a comic book kind of, if I would choose another wrestling comic, for example, on something of a news story promotion that made such a creative splash for character development that really caught me off guard in a great way. It would have to be Lock Target Wrestling. They even have other characters like the Rejects.
Okay.
I think there's a beard. I think the Beard Club. I think it was called. I think the promoter's name I believe is Dave Marksman. I think that's his name. And he's a great guy. Him and his partner, they run the company, and they're great. They're just great. Him and her are just great. Sydney is his partner's name. She's great person. So they have this great character development, and they even have little short films on the Lock Target Wrestling YouTube channel. I recommend anyone watching now, please check it out. I mean, the character development is so strong. It's so strong, and it's like we don't see that. And there's some horror elements to it. There's some realistic elements, like the high school jock that you can't stand. And as I said, Reina Black is like that high school bully that we from traditionalism and even now that you just want to strangle. And no offense, Reina, I respect you. I'm just making a gesture here. And I would love to see a comic book like that. If there's give me another wrestling comic book, a news story promotion that made a splash in such a great way that because we're seeing a lot of lack of character development in a lot of ways now. I say what they've been doing. Check out their YouTube channel as well. Comic book like that would be great based on Lock Target Wrestling. I'd love to see that.
That'd be a classic one right there. And John, what about yourself? What wrestling news stories this year do you think could make a good comic book?
Wrestling news stories or any news story we talk about?
Wrestling.
Okay, because I had my answer ready for a big news story that could be an awesome comic book. But man, I'm still waiting for, this is like old news for me, but like, meaning it's something that we see every month is another wrestler passing away, right? And all these tragic stories, rising, all the trials and tribulations that they face only to, have an early death for any number of reasons, health reasons, tragedies, murder, injuries, like with the Hart family. Just, that is something I would like to see. So just being someone who grew up on, watching Ultimate Warrior, watching Macho Man, and then seeing their early demise, I guess maybe if you even look at them, what's sad is that they actually live longer than the average wrestler. So for me, that's what I want to see is something about like what's actually really happening there, right? And perhaps there's something something evil behind all of this, right? I could see a comic book behind that, and also would help raise awareness about what an everyday wrestler suffers to make it in the business.
If any of you guys have seen the Teddy Hart documentary that came out a couple of weeks ago, I mean, I was watching that with my wife, and my wife was like, "He's crazy," and I was just, and I was like, "Yeah, he kind of is," And it's like somebody that's like, I've read Bret Hart's autobiography, and I've spoken to plenty of wrestlers like off the record about like Bret Hart and things like that, and that family. Yeah. That Teddy Hart story is like almost lifted from the pages of a comic book. Like he is a comic book character, a wrestler that like is a womanizer that breeds cats. I mean, what? That's a comic book if I've ever heard of one before, you know? So yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Teddy
and I'm sure Teddy would be totally down with it too. So
well, Teddy Hart, if you're watching this, give Lexi Comic a wee email, pal. Maybe we could work something out there.
mm-hmm.
I'm definitely interested in that. We mentioned the Ultimate Warrior, John. Obviously, his dad passing in 2014, just after he'd been inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame. Actually had a comic book come out as well. I believe it was a short run comic book in the 90s.
Yeah,
I don't know if any of you gentlemen have read that, but it's quite it is quite an interesting read into his mindset. You know, he definitely had an idea for world building as well, of the lore and legacy from that comic book as well. The Warrior comic book. If people have not seen it, what are some of the great elements you could take from that comic book? I'll start with you, Patrick.
So funny story. I interviewed Ultimate Warrior probably like a month before he passed. And actually spoke to him a couple of times, like right before he passed. And it's so funny. I interviewed him while I was at NBC. And when the interview was over, I was like, can I get a picture for the article? And he said, only if you're in it. And I said, listen, my editor will have my ass. I cannot take a selfie with you. I can only take a picture of you. So I was like, they had a big stand up for like WWE 2K13 or 14, whichever game he was in at the time. And I was like, I want to take a picture of you side by side with, you know, the old you and the new you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, so you don't want to take a picture with me? And I was like, I absolutely, positively want to take a picture with you. You have no idea how badly I want to take a picture with you, but I cannot do it. I'm a professional journalist. I cannot do it. And he was just like, whatever, just take the picture. And he was pissed. So probably like a month later, I'm in LA covering SummerSlam, and he had given this motivational talk to like the writers like over breakfast. And it was to the point where like after this talk was over, it was like deafening silence, because he was just talking about like living in his car, having nothing, and then having everything, and then being shut off by society, being canceled before canceling was a thing, and blah, blah, blah. And no one could say a word. And then after it was over, I went over and I was just like, I thanked him for the talk. And he's like, oh, you're the guy that didn't want to take a picture with me. So this is a guy that probably got like a ton of interviews, did tons of interviews, and he still remembered me. Super cool guy. So I remember picking up that comic when it originally came out. And I said to myself, like, he understood, you said it, world building. He had a great artist attached. They obviously didn't have the distribution that they could have liked and stuff like that. So like Warrior had a mindset, but like he didn't have the mindset necessarily like for business. So like John's a lawyer, so John will absolutely positively probably tell you, sorry, John, for speaking for you. But just because he changed his name to Warrior didn't necessarily mean he owned the likeness to the Ultimate Warrior character created by, you know, Titan Sports and things like that. So like, he tried though. Ultimate Warrior tried to make that gimmick like a part of his life, and I feel like everything that he did had a piece of that warrior, you know, attached to it. But he ran into that issue where a lot of wrestlers run into this, is that you are not your character, that like you are actually a living, breathing person, and you have to be able to separate that sometimes. So I feel like that wrestling character and the comic book character and him as a person are so clearly intertwined that it's impossible to tell who you're speaking to. So in terms of the comic, it worked because it completely suspended disbelief. You really felt like you were inside the head of the Warrior character. So for that, I'll give him credit. And like I said, the covers to those books, if you guys are listening, just look up the covers of those books. They feel very early 90s DC. So like the covers of like Lobo and things like that, or like the cover of like Morbius, like the full face shots, totally ahead of their time. Early the Max comics from Image, like the art style is totally there. So I was totally a fan of those comics, but like they're super hard to find because again, distribution wasn't where it needed to be. So yeah.
So relics of the age. Justin, what about your thoughts on Warriors comic?
Well, you know, I will admit I didn't. I actually kept it in the wrapper because I collect them too, and I did sell them on my eBay store not too long ago. But with the thoughts of the comic book, I mean, I guess I would have to say, I mean, I did get a bit of an idea of it, but I would have to say, again, I want to talk about from a business standpoint, how it just goes to show you again how that stereotype of your typical wrestler is, you know, just uneducated, can't do much, when typically, you know, this comic will prove that wrestlers no matter what educational background they are, we've heard wrestlers dropping out of high school, they still got a lot of intelligence in there.
Sure.
And it proves what Ultimate Warrior was capable of doing outside of just being an in-ring performer and a great character. And the comic book, reinforced who he truly was and how broad he could get with his abilities. But I had both. I had two of these covers on. There were 2 issues. I don't know. I think there was there more than 2? Because I had 2.
There were 6, I believe.
So, okay, so I had 2 of them on eBay, and they sold for a decent amount. And there was, so they were, wrestling fans were, they're into them, and there's still a bunch on there on eBay from other sellers, and people do gravitate towards them. But I would just say, as I said, I kept in the wrapper as a comic, as your comic book collector that would try to resell them. And I would say that you keep it in like mint condition. But I would say just talk about the best I could tell you is just from how wrestlers personally and professionally, and how they could just turn it up a notch outside of just being in-ring performers. I would say that's what I would have to say would really impressed me by it, since I didn't take it out of the wrapper.
Yeah, keep that shit graded, man.
Yeah.
Don't get your prints and dust on it. John, what about yourself about Warriors
Exactly.
comics? Was it something you're familiar with?
Yeah, and just to add to what Justin said, is like really the talent that goes beyond, well, he's just a wrestler. I mean, Ultimate Warrior, he also wrote this, I think he wrote a majority of the comic book himself, right? So you can't take that for granted. The true talent. I mean, he was, and many of these wrestlers, creative geniuses, right? Not only, super athletes, but you really start to dig into it. They're creative geniuses. And then one of those thing I took from this comic book, I think the Ultimate Warrior's tassels were sentient. So really, like, you think about that, like, it was the ridiculous tassels that he was always, around his arms and his legs and whatnot. In this comic book, they were sentient. So yeah, just getting creative, when you're making a comic book, and trying to think of the elements that you could bring out to when someone's reading this. Wow, I can't believe they thought of this. Oh, this is awesome. Like, you got to be thinking on that level. This is a comic book. This isn't a movie. This isn't a documentary TV show. A whole nother level of thinking. And Patrick, knows that all too well. I mean, reading some of his comic books, just brilliant creativity. And same thing with the Warrior comic books, just awesome. So if you haven't read this comic, if you haven't seen the covers at least, and just search for them, find them, because they're really special.
Definitely.
See, like for me, it's like a lot of characters, they do well with their original creators, but then you always want to see the comic live long enough so someone else that's been influenced by it can take it over. So, like, perfect example, people that don't know a lot about comics just think that like characters just arrive a certain way. And like, for perfect, one of the most popular comic book characters right now is Venom. And Venom is like almost synonymous for having that long tongue.
Mm-hmm.
That long tongue of Venom doesn't become a thing until like 1993. So you're talking like when he was created, like in 1988 to like 1993, Venom doesn't have that long purple tongue. So like Todd McFarlane is like really like the artist that brings Venom to life, but Venom is known more for like the big face and the teeth. But it's not until Eric Larson takes over the Venom series after Todd McFarlane goes on like a 1-year like retirement tour from Marvel, and then eventually goes to co-found like Image Comics, that Eric Larson says, you know what, the teeth are really cool, but what if he has this long tongue that's like purple and has like green ooze and stuff? Can you imagine Venom without that long tongue? You can't. So like for me, Warrior planted all of these really cool like building blocks that it would have been really cool to see if someone else got the reins and continued that, Mm-hmm. So, but that didn't happen. But the fact that he was able to like plant all of those seeds in like a tiny little 6-issue run, really,
I think
really
it's time for you
cool.
to take it over.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Now, here's something
that would be great.
Here's something I want to pinpoint about the Ultimate Warrior. Is it possible throughout it? I know this is a little off the record, but is it possible, and this is something maybe we didn't talk about enough in the wrestling community, is it possible that maybe Ultimate Warrior had that mind to have a promotion? Because as we recall from Ultimate Warrior's practices, I'm not, disparaging him for these. Is it possible that maybe Ultimate Warrior, because he was questioning a lot of decisions by upper management, within other companies. Is it possible that this man was so intelligent that he was questioning things, maybe not just for himself? I know people maybe thought he was very only in the business for himself, but maybe because deep down there was something in his mind that he felt like maybe he had an idea of maybe how other components of how wrestling maybe should be interpreted a little more, which is why a lot of things he was questioning, and maybe saying, if you don't give me this amount, I'll walk, because maybe there were certain things he thought would be better, for the industry with the flow going throughout the years. I know we remember SummerSlam '91, not to sound like a mark here, but when you think about that, it's possible Ultimate Warrior had ideas kind of like how a promoter or a visionary sees wrestling that was maybe a little more set apart from a Vince McMahon vision or Eric Bischoff vision. That's something we maybe need to just consider, maybe what he had in mind. And you see the comic book is one component of how broad he could get.
It's very similar to EC3's current story with him leaving WWE and making Control Your Narrative. So maybe, who knows, maybe the Ultimate Warrior, if he had the drive and the financial gains, we could have maybe seen a Control Your Narrative in the 90s. It's very weird with wrestling because we never know how the past can influence the future. It's a very great medium we are involved in.
Sure.
Now, I want to pose a question to John and Justin as well for Jambone Pictures. I live in the great place of Scotland. Freezing as piss, but it's drunk as shit. I love this place. And our capital city, Edinburgh, has a little thing called the Edinburgh International Film Festival. Would you guys ever interested in maybe showcasing the Ballad of Gia Frankie at the film festival here in Edinburgh?
Absolutely. I think Scotland is a fantastic market for wrestling. There's so many fans, and there's so much excitement about wrestling and all these storylines in Scotland, and I just love the energy there. So yeah, I would really be interested in submitting there.
No, grand here. What about your thoughts, Justin, as well?
Yeah, definitely would. Definitely be open to that. I mean, I've been seeing Ireland too grow. I was even watching some wrestling in Ireland as well with Isla Dawn before she's now in NXT. Even UK is tearing it up a notch over there. Definitely be open to that as well. And I love Scotland. I mean, I've never been there yet, but I've been a Scotland fan since '92, and I came across Highlander with Christopher Lambert. That's my movie. That's my movie, and I could relate to that love story as well. That love story was, that's a classic love story. You think classic, So that's what drew my attention to Scotland, and it is definitely a unique country, and definitely they do appreciate wrestling and other forms of entertainment. Just a lot of they appreciate a lot of things. So definitely would be open to that, and wouldn't mind even flying out to Scotland if I have you, John. If I have the Patrick, if we have the opportunity, just to fly out there for the film, because I just would love to see Scotland. Definitely would. Since '92, since '92, when I first began watching, first began watching Highlander, and it was Freddie Mercury and Queen that got me into Highlander, because the soundtrack, all those songs, and I remember the exact date. I think it was it June 6th, I think it was, 1992. I remember the date. I think it was June 6th, or maybe it was June 5th. Rented that movie, and that's when, just Scotland. Yes, have to come here. Have to go here.
It makes my Scottish heart flutter with pride. I mean, as soon as you guys are off the plane, I'll have 3 pints in hand ready for them to be next to me.
Nice.
But I want to pose a question as well. John, I mentioned to you last time, if people have seen the documentary, we never find out who Frankie was. He's gone, vanishes into the distance. He could be watching this episode or a previous episode right now. And Patrick and Justin, I want to say right now, if Frankie is out there right now, wherever he is, and he's watching this episode of the Soul Sessions, what do you want to say to the guy?
Thank you.
I guess, who should go first, John, me or you?
Well, I answered this last time, and last time I said seek help, because you got issues, boy. Justin, what about you?
Frankie, well, I think that's a good question. I think with Frankie, Frankie's the type of guy that I was doing this in 2014, and it was, I remember my friend Chris. He's one of those guys that you would see in the movie Goodfellas. Chris, I love you if you're watching this. Chris is one of those, traditional New York. We're Italiano Paisan, so Chris is gonna. He saw this Frankie stuff, and I said, so I said some stuff on Twitter. I think to get Frankie going, and Frankie was saying stuff, and it was just an even exchange going on, really. And then Chris heard about it, says, "Hey, Justin, you need me to do something?" He texted it to me, but I visioned that's how Chris is a former Golden Gloves boxer. He used to knock out guys within 10 seconds of the first round. I swear to you, I saw the footage. His father was his coach, and bam, Chris had these small hands, but bam, Chris would leg it out. So Chris really took this Frankie stuff a little seriously, and Chris the type of guy that if his friends are being harmed, he's going to come. Hey, Justin, I need to get a hold of this guy. But with Frankie, to give a little thing to Frankie, a little message to Frankie, you're gonna get him going, and that's I don't know how to say that. Is that going to be good? Is that going to be should I say thank you, or should I say my life is in danger and I need to seek help for my protection? I don't know.
Well, Justin, I could throw my Scottish tongue into this argument, and to Frankie himself, you creepy wee bastard. I must say, the Soul Session is an open platform. You are more than welcome, if you are viewing this right now, to come on, speak your mind, speak your piece, and discuss why you are a bit of a creepy bastard. But hey, the floor is to you, Frankie, if you are watching. Now, from Comix,
I want to say, I do think he's out there somewhere. I'm getting clues here and there, random messages that I'm receiving from him, and I'm scared myself too. Dude has a shotgun. Dude has, I think, multiple guns. Based on some of the footage and of course the documentary as well, and I'm going to be releasing some of this footage too because I need some evidence out there if he does come after me, because I paint him in not the best light. I'm just honest, really, with when I put this together. But I think he is out there. I think he maybe disappeared into his cave, his lair, right? Maybe Justin, maybe you scared him away during that last interview that you had, but I don't think this is the last we've seen of him.
Well, I just called him a creepy wee bastard, so I better lock my doors tight and hide underneath the bed. But I want to pose a question as well, from all of you as well. We've seen comic books be adapted into big motion pictures with high budgets and everything, and usually love to cast big stars as the main roles, as the villain and the hero. If the Ballad of Gia Frankie was picked up by a big studio like Paramount or Disney itself, from yourselves, who would you love to see a big star actor play Gia Savitz and Frankie Firestar? I'll start with you, John. Who would you like to see play those roles?
I would say Joaquin Phoenix as Frankie Firestarter. Okay. And tough one about Gia. I didn't think about that. I could see something like years down the road, a little like Rocky Balboa. I could see something really interesting there. Later in life rendition of Gia. But I got to think about who would be the my pick for present day. But definitely Joaquin Phoenix all over it.
Definitely a good choice there. What about you, Justin? Who would you like to see?
I would say for Gia, that's a good question. I would say for Gia, it would have to be.
Tough one.
I would have to say it would have to be an actor. I would say for Gia and Frankie, it would have to be in a movie. It'd have to be two actors we never heard of that are being discovered from the independent. They've started with independent films or Broadway. And then they transition into Hollywood. I would say that. I would say the best thing is, and that would be the best thing I would say. I mean, I can't see, I could see there's a number of Hollywood actors. I guess I could maybe, because it's something I didn't really think too hard about. I can think about it more when I leave here. But I think the best thing I can think of right now is give an independent film actor, because there's a lot of independent film actors that are extremely talented that never get their fair shot, and they're continuing to wait tables, when they should be out there just tearing it up a notch. There's a lot of great, and I've worked with a lot of them, even like with filmmakers like Jasmine Banks, used to always bring in even Ben Nisman brought in a lot of great talent that he had. Jerry Landy, another filmmaker from the Bronx that I worked with. There's a lot of independent talent that just actors are great. So I would have to say give an independent film actor a shot, because I think that would be, these are very unique entities, brands. Gia Savitz and Frankie Firestarter are very unique entities and brands. So I would say give these guys the shot. Give the independent film actors the shot, and I think they could really say, okay, now I got this opportunity, and I'm definitely gonna ascend to greater heights. That's what I would say.
Definitely a great way.
Yeah, because when you look at like giving these actors an opportunity that have talent, right? There's so much talent out there, but giving them an opportunity in a shot like this, a big movie with a really, I think, a story that, as I said, is next level. Like, Sylvester Stallone, he came out of nowhere too, right? He was struggling actors. There's so many out there. So yeah, I like that, Justin. Like, let's give someone an opportunity to really shine.
I definitely like it as well. What about your thoughts as well, Patrick? What about you?
So like, I mean, right off the top of my head, I mean, I think someone like Jake Gyllenhaal would be amazing, as Gia. But I'm not sure if you guys are watching Willow right now on Disney Plus. I've had a ton of fun watching it, and Dempsey Brick is this up and coming actor, and he plays Mad Mardigan's son, so Val Kilmer's son. Val Kilmer's character's son, and he's just like this super good looking, like free spirit David Bowie type charisma. And I just see him. He could totally, like, if he put on like 20 pounds, he's a little too skinny right now, but like if he put on 20 pounds, he could totally play Nomad. And then he's got just like this really cool look where if you threw the Gia wig on him and stuff, he could totally play this character. So Dempsey Brick, it's like Bryk, I think his name is. If you guys look him up, super talented actor. That's kind of like burst on the scene with the Willow Disney Plus series. I'm going to go a little bit in a different direction for a character, someone that I think would do a great job as Frankie Firestarter. He's no longer with us. Is one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done, though. Philip Seymour Hoffman would have been a perfect Frankie Firestarter. I could just imagine him with the mask on in the dark room with the stubble and stuff like that. Like he would have just lent himself to the character in a way that like so many people wouldn't have been able to. But you definitely need a character actor. You definitely need a method actor to play Frankie Firestarter. You couldn't just get somebody that looked like Frankie. You need someone that is going to become Frankie. So that's the type of actor that I would go for in casting Frankie Firestarter.
Definitely a good choice, my friend. Absolutely. Now I want to pose a question back to John and Justin. For Jambone Pictures entering 2023, what are some of the future stuff we can see from Jambone Pictures in 2023? I'll start with you first.
So I'm I'm working on a new project right now with Justin. So this is a continuation of the Gia and Frankie saga. So this is something I'm really excited about, and we're gonna we're wrapping up the script and gonna begin filming soon. So keep an eye out for this one, because this is the continuation in actually a different format. That's the biggest one I'm working on right now. Other than that, we are going to be working on a documentary related to Ukraine and the heroes that have emerged from that, just everyday civilians that really stepped up to the plate and gave their lives, giving everything, risking everything to help out in that war effort. So that's the other one that I'll be working on after.
It's really powerful stuff, my friend. And Justin, what about your thoughts on the upcoming projects for Jambone Pictures?
Well, I'm not really involved with the Ukraine one that John is in the works with, but the others to continue the saga, yeah. So as John mentioned, I'm going to elaborate on that a tad bit because I know my friend Jose is anticipating more. He did when he saw the ballad. He definitely is, and he says he liked it so much he can't wait to see what's next in store. So what I want to tell you is that, I can't really tell you too much, but we definitely have something where, she just, I think, I don't know how to say it, I don't know how to say it. It's just very, very unique, definitely. definitely about that.
Intriguing stuff. It's intriguing stuff. You know, it's really going to wrap you in. I mean, hey, you can't reveal too much of the grand deal. You can't spoil the viewers. They got to really be enticed, as you've said before, the breadcrumbs to the lead up to the second part. I mean, hey, I'm intrigued already.
Well, I think when it comes to the next saga, we definitely, to just give you, I guess, a little bit of a heads up, a tad bit. I guess we definitely, the story has to definitely, you know, I guess to sum the story up, it's just, you know, it's just going to be very much more, I guess, very unique in a lot of ways, in a broad way, and just we have to. I guess what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that what we're making sure we do. It's been a struggle to work to try to continue the saga. It's been a very struggle, and I've been feeling I get aches and pains when I do it. I mean, I didn't really share this with John and Patrick, but I get aches and pains. There's days you can't. It's so emotionally driven that there's days you can't really even get out of bed. There's days you can't sit down and, you know, get your thoughts together. It gets so frustrating. So in order for assistance, I need to look to my surroundings to see, can someone around here, just some random person, drive me to do it? And that's what happens. Oh, this person got me going, you know. So sometimes we need to look upon other people to kind of put. Now, is that an insult to them? No, it's not. It's saying I appreciate, you know, who you are and what you're doing and how you get me going to do my thing, you know. And like things that also get me going to the creative process is I just love it when I get to see people, you know, maybe go out and walk their dog dressed up in a jogging suit, and then you see them 2 hours later, this is a true story, walking their dog in a dress. Why do I love that? Because this person is being real, not weird, real. They're showing that they like to dress how they feel. They'll go to work dressed, same person go to work dressed, all spunky, like the woman in the club. Not saying she's a club person, because she's dressing how she's feeling confident and spunky. And then one minute she's feeling monotone, she wants to dress monotone. That is such a great thing. And when I see things like that, that inspires me, drives me to try to work more on the saga. And and I don't know if this person's watching right now, but I'm complimenting that person a great deal, that someone will do something like that. That's a gift, not a weird thing that someone needs to talk to a professional about. That's a gift. If you do something like that, you are showing that you are in your surroundings. You realize that your job, whatever it is, every day you're in your life is not going to be the same. You got to dress in how you feel. You're going to be around people, dress how maybe they're feeling, you know, how they're feeling, whatever it is. That leads to success in life. Embrace that. So that's what really. So again, with the saga, the continued saga, all I could say is we're doing something that is trying to be unique, not just for professional wrestling, not just for film, but for everybody in all walks of life. That's all I have to say. It's the most I'm going to tell you here.
Well, I am definitely intrigued. And hey, if you ever need a Scotsman with a crazy ass hair and a leather jacket to be appearing in the ballet, my DMs are open. I'm always happy to make a wee cameo.
Love it. I'll take that under advisement, definitely.
Oh, thank you, good sir. And Patrick, for Legacy Comics in 2023, what can we expect from yourselves?
We've got a whole slate of comics coming out in the winter, spring, and summer. Our publication schedules are already fully booked, so we've got a little bit of everything. We're continuing our zombie books that we're doing. We're continuing the Condry series. We're continuing The Job. We're continuing The Legend of the Night Owl. So like, we're really in this spot now where we're trying to build up our library as much as possible. I've already got a whole bunch of con appearances lined up for January and February already. I mean, I'm going to be voice acting in like 6 different games this year too. So like that plays a part in like a lot of like our decisions moving forward. I got another video game history book, The Minds Behind the Sony PlayStation 2 games, coming out in March. So busy year for me, busy year for Legacy. But like, I mean, I've been super lucky that I have mentors that have been in comic books and publishing for far longer than I have. And they all tell me the first 5 years is just about building a base, because sometimes, you know, you're going to find somebody that'll go, oh, you know, they'll catch on to like the Ballad of Gia and Frankie, like number 3, and go, okay, where can I get 2 and 1? And then they read 1, 2, and 3. And then they want to go back and read the other stuff that you've done. So if you're only known for one thing, people can only purchase one thing. They can only experience one thing. So it's like us at Legacy Comics, what we're doing right now is we're trying to build that library. So this way, when someone comes across this, there's enough for them to bite, digest, and chew to continue, their experience with us. So we're doing great in terms of that. I'm just super excited for people to see Gia and Frankie when it comes out, which should be, towards the end of this year, early, 2023. It's ready to go. The book is done. It looks great. It's been edited tightly. It's going to be something special. I add in that variant cover. And there's something totally there. It's available it's going to be available in digital and physical form. All you got to do is go to legacycomics.com. The shop button is right in the upper left-hand corner. You could pre-order your copy today. So yeah, 2023 is going to be a really special year for Legacy.
That is great to hear, my friend. 2023 is going to be the year of elevation for everybody, and I love to see that. And of course, if our viewers do want to check out the documentary as well as the comic, where can they find the documentary, John?
Yeah, so documentary, last time what I did was I provided viewers with a 50% off for the first 10 people to access this documentary. You're going to get 50% off of that. And we had everyone, we had I think 23 people, so 10 people got that 50% off. And then using that link, I saw that 13 additional people went in there. So that was awesome. And so what I did was I created another link for lists for people who are watching this right now. So if you go to bit.ly/Wrestling Republic, we'll have another 50% discount for the first 10 people to access that. So that's for the documentary. And then, for the comic book, as Patrick said, legacycomics.com, or you can go to bit.ly/pre-order comic if you want another link to get there and to pre-order. But this comic is amazing. If you're a wrestling fan, if you're a comic book fan, it's phenomenal work, from the design, the variant cover, the story. We even added some ways in which you could see some previews of the documentary. It all ties together, right? This comic book is giving you an inside look into Gia and Nomad, where they came from, right, and how they started up, and this nefarious character, Frankie Firestarter, just looming in the background, and you start to see the origin story there, which transitions perfectly into the documentary. So I highly recommend getting your copy.
Well, that is absolutely grand. Viewers, you've heard the links. Don't say I'm not kind to you. I'm now St. Nick, Santa Claus, holiday seasons. We're all bringing the gifts around. Well, it has been absolutely grand. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for appearing on the Season 2 premiere of the Soul Sessions. Remember, all the links for all the affiliates now will be down in the description below for Legacy Comics, Jambone Pictures. The discount links will be there. Guys, again, thank you so much for appearing on the show for the season premiere. It's been an absolute joy in myself to have you all on. Absolute thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And viewers, do remember to check out Wrestling Republic for all your wrestling needs. I've been the host, Soul. There's been Patrick from Legacy Comics, John Ambrose, and Justin. I'm going to get this wrong. Giuseppe, am I right? Did I get it?
Justin Giuseppe Chardulo. Yes.
I'll take that with my Scottish tongue. It was as close as I could get. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. And remember, stay kind to one another and have a great, great day.